Hey everyone, we are doing the masterclass on radiant relief, and we have Brendon here who is talking about chapter 2. So chapter 2, the complicated context of chronic pain. Tell us a little bit about the essence of this chapter.
Well, this essence gets into some of the industry and experiential aspects to pain. So in the first chapter, we talk about the complicated world of it from an individualistic standpoint and how it complicates health and makes people more complicated on their health journey. But in this chapter, I get into a little bit more the understanding of the drivers of the industry. I just attended a conference in San Diego. JJ Virgin, maybe some of your listeners know who she is. She's a phenomenal individual, called Mindshare. It's a big summit that she puts on for healthcare professionals. And in that, we had Dr. Mark Hyman, who maybe many of your
I've interviewed him.
Yeah, great physician, head of the Cleveland Clinic's functional medicine group, and a U.S. senator from Ohio, Tim Ryan. And those two gentlemen said, and it's very true, that industry, in terms of our nutritional understanding and our nutritional guidelines that we've had promoted to us for decades, was so heavily informed by industry that it changed the science. The same is true with pain, because we all have pain. We all experience it. We feel like we have some level of understanding to it. And, going back to our primitive caveman days, we realized back then, our ancestors, that if we hurt, if we drink alcohol, or if we take opium, we can feel better in the short term. It's diminishing that pain experience. And so industry, the healthcare pain management industry really was kind of born out of this analgesic approach based upon chemical interventions that are not really much dissimilar to drinking alcohol or taking opium. I mean, opioids essentially are a synthetic derivative and similar mechanism as that. And then you have most physicians and clinicians in our country are trained in science from the 1960s, pain science from the 1960s. So, they're ill-educated. And I know it's something that's important to you as I've gotten to know you and your message is to help educate people that, as well-intentioned as our medical professionals are, they're not omniscient. They don't know everything, right? I mean, sometimes they're informed by old science, by their previous education, by peers, by marketing. I mean, the pharmaceutical companies are great consumer marketers, but they're also equally great, marketers to physicians, and they inform that education. And so pain has certainly been done this way. And so what's happened is that the science of pain has changed so much in the last few years. We really now understand it to be a problem of the brain, but having that knowledge permeate, the medical world and to the consumers is a challenge, particularly when you have economic incentive to keep doing the things that we're doing and not thinking differently about that. So I thought, we open the book talking about the complicated reality from the pain sufferer standpoint, and then we have to look at the complicated reality from an industry standpoint, because until industry is able to change, the therapies aren't going to change. And industry, frankly, isn't going to change. And that's part of what we're doing in our business is to say, look, industry is not going to disrupt itself.
Exactly. There's too much money. There's too much money at stake.
Yeah. And so just like, other notable disruptors, Uber, Airbnb, it doesn't matter. I mean, those disruptors came from outside of the space. It wasn't an endogenous transformation, right? And so the same is happening with Radiant. We're coming, even though my partner is a physician and I've spent my career in healthcare, we're coming at this from a totally different perspective because we don't have the same obligations and, industry drivers that other healthcare settings do.
So the two big takeaways from the chapters that we've done so far, to me anyway, are one, if you have pain, you have got to rethink your pain and the context of the pain, as well as your approach to pain. Because if we're not willing to rethink, A, why am I experiencing this, and B, that maybe my approach so far isn't correct, then the rest of the book isn't going to help you. So please take a moment, deep breathe, and go, okay, I'm going to be open-minded about this. Yeah. And I'm because if you don't, I think you're going to listen to everything and go back to that same heavy-duty painkiller you're on, and nothing will change. And my mission is that you, at the end of this book masterclass, you are able to transform yourself into a no-pain life. So,
well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if we'll ever have a totally no pain life. It is part of the human experience.
Absolutely.
But we don't like it, right? I mean, we experience pain. The first thing we want to do is do something to get out of it. But it is the master teacher. I mean, it's the reason that we're probably in our human bodies, having these human experiences, is so that we can learn that contrast between pain and joy and suffering and satisfaction and struggle and triumph. I mean, it's why we're here. But what I hope to do is inspire people to say, let me think, as you say, let me think differently about this, and not try to minimize it, but what is my body telling me? Why, in acute pain, when you have your hand on the hot stove or you broke your ankle, it's pretty clear what the body's telling you. In chronic pain, it becomes a little less clear, but our nervous system, our brain, wants to keep us alive. It wants to get
Exactly.
and that pain experience is still a protective function. It may not be so clear, black and white, what that cause is. Later in the book, we'll talk a little bit about maybe a better analogy or understanding around this. But yeah, don't just take a pill and mask it. Like, yeah, I understand. Let's minimize the pain, but there are other ways that we can shift that. And I think the first thing is having the appetite, the bravery, the desire to think differently about the pain experience right from the very beginning.